So I'm going to do a transportation model, maybe immediately followed by transshipment if I can, if it isn't going to be too long for you. So lots of interesting, I will leave this here just in case you want to read some of the other stuff from another book that's pretty good. So we're shipping, in this case, tons of wheat from Kansas City, Omaha, and Des Moines. Those are supplies, and we're shipping them to mills in Chicago, St. Louis, and Cincinnati. And notice we've used different values. We've used numbers here, and we've used letters here. It's just easier when we move into Excel that we can distinguish between supply and demand. Also, in this particular case, we have equal supply and demand. Unless there's time in the course, I don't do it if there's not enough supply for the demand. That's just a bit beyond what they've done. So our first job is to draw a network. Remember, this course is all based on having networks drawn here so that they have a chart or a graph or a table that will show what's going on. So from here, whether you write the supply out the side or underneath the name, it doesn't really make any difference. But I can clearly see that Kansas City has 150 tons of wheat to ship, and that it's going to cost $25 to send per unit to send to Chicago, and it's going to cost $125 to go to Cincinnati. So the students are required to set this up at each time. So let's just be sure that we have I'm sorry, all of this set up to begin with. And so we can go back. We have a table here. So it's showing you that that we have all of the values. So I can draw it by hand, or you can just add to what was already here. So, okay. So I'm going to open Excel. Okay, stick with me here now so I can get Excel opened. So, and let me just open new. All right, so in this case, since this is the first time that they actually use Solver, I will put Solver on in here as well. If you decide, I can do a separate one as well. So File, Options, Add-ins, and usually the students have to do this every time. And it's these Excel add-ins that we're using. And we're going to use Solver. And you can check whether it's here or not. It's under the Data tab. So let's choose the Data tab. And here it is here at Solver. So I'm hoping that that's works well then. Okay, so let's put in where the people were going. And so the first one was X 1A, then X 1B, and X 1C. So that's all of the first, out of the first warehouse. And then X to A and X to B, X to C, and then we have 3. So X, 3A, X, 3B, and X, 3C. Okay, so let's just go back to check out the numbers that were here. Okay, so in the table, it showed us that the price of each of them. So you see, we actually have this as it should be. We have 1 to A, 1 to B, 1 to C, 1 to D, 2 to A, 2 to B, 2 to C, and the last one set up. So let me go back, make this and okay, so underneath, I'm actually going to write the amounts. So was 6, 8, 10, 7, 11, 11. Oh, hold on. Let's make sure I have these all incorrect. This is 6. 2C is 11. 4, 5, 12. Okay, so that's the price per ton of sharing it. And then I highlight the answers in a color, just so it's easier for the students to see where the answer fits. And I do this all the time because sometimes the answers are horizontal and some of them are vertical. So let's move over here. And in here, I'm going to write, so when we do linear programming, we already know that we're either going to have a max or a min. And the letter that we use to represent that is Z. And in this case, we want a minimum cost. We're sending, it's transportation, we want it to be minimum. And the command, well, first of all, we know it's, we need to give an equal sign in Excel, and it's sum product so you can use the command from here, some product, and in that one, we have to highlight, it's the price, comma, times the amount, which will be our yellow one. And the trick here is this must be 0, because Excel sees those yellow squares as being empty. So, and therefore it's 0. In Solver, anything that's empty is considered to be 0. So let's start here and talk about the first group. We called that group 1. That's good as any. So this is supply, right? So maybe I should call that supply just so that there's no... All right, so all the supply from group 1 has to be less than or equal to the amount that it has to give. Okay, so we'll put a 1 here and a 1 here and a 1 here. And what was the total amount that we had for this one? Was 600. No, it was a total of 600. Oh, hold on. Okay, so the total amount in here, and again, this will be important. This is less than or equal to so oh, that's disappointing. I'm looking for the less than sign here. Maybe I don't have it. Oh yes, less than equal, and in here I have 150, and the next ones, so I'm not saying I'm only buying 1 ton of wheat from each of these places. What I'm saying is that if I add the yellow amount that shows up in E6, F6, and G6, that that has to be less than 150. This one less than 175. And the next one less than 300. No, sorry. 275. Okay, so that's looked after the supply, and now I'm going to do the demand. And so each one that's going to A must total what the mill required. And this mill required space equals, so that it doesn't think you're giving it a command, 200 ton. And each of B wanted you to total 100, and each of C and that was 300. So we have it all set up now. What we want to do is now write the constraints. So the easiest way I do is I copy what I'm required to do now. So do I get to copy from here? Copy. And I'm going to put it down here somewhere. Paste. So here goes my first complaint, or my first constraint. And it's, let's write it, equal sign, of course. And the command is sum product. And it's going to be this first supply, comma, and the yellow one. End of brackets. Enter. And again, if it's not 0, then you know something's wrong. Now, I want the yellow to always be the same. And I want the other ones to change. So let's just move back. And in order for that to happen, I'm going to put dollar signs. Okay, I'm on a tablet, so this isn't working as well as it would. If you highlight this and click F4, it will automatically do it for you. It will. So in other words, I would highlight B3, J3, and click F4, and the dollar signs will be on. So what that does is when I drag, it will change B5, J5 to B6, J6, but it will keep the others the same. So let's make sure that that's the case. Do you see it's kept the other ones the same? Okay, so we're ready to go now. We're in data. We're choosing solver. The first part of solver is asking you, where is your answer going to go? That's here. That's my answer. I want a minimum. And I'm going to find my answer by these changing variables. And for me, they'll always be colored. And I'm going to do that by adding the constraints. So I can add these first three in. Whoops, first three. Because the sign is less than or equal for all of them. And these three. Add. And then I'm going to add these three. And I can put them together because their sign is the same, equal. And it's these three. And you get an error here as if they don't match. Okay. Okay, so all's good. This make unconstrained variables non-negative. That means we can't have any negative wheat going. Here, always simplex. And go. This tells us that there is a solution. Click OK. And so here's the value that we have here. Let me get a pen that's a nice color, if I can. So 4520 will be the max, or the minimum price that you will be able to send off, and this tells us where you're sending it. So 1 to C will be 150 tons. 2 to A will be 25 tons. 2 to C is 150. 3 to A is 175. And 3 to B is 100. So if we total that, we should end up with 600 because that's what they wanted. Then the cheapest price will be $45.25. Okay, all good.